What if you were to listen to an internationally acclaimed, multi-award-winning illusionist, and he had something far more to say than, "Watch this trick"? Rick Thomas is that performer, ready to go far beyond his magic and far beyond your imagination as he shares secrets regarding our dreams. Dreams that can become reality. The future belongs to those who believe in the strength of their dreams. Dreams pass into the reality of action. From the action stems the dream again. And this interdependence produces the highest form of living. Join Rick and his co-host, award-winning broadcaster Tammy Trujillo, for Nothing Happens Until You Dream. Indulge your mind and take a journey never to be forgotten. A journey connecting all of our dreams as we chase them together.
Rick, right now I'm in the studio, obviously, because we're recording our podcast, and I am looking at the cutest little stuffed white tiger. Remember I told you I was buying one on eBay?
I do.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how to feel when you buy something of mine on eBay. Somebody turns around and sells it. They bought it as a souvenir, and now it's like in the wasteland somewhere out there in the world. And yeah, I got this. Now I understand when someone's selling like a VHS tape, they're like, "I found a VHS tape of your show, Rick." But the tigers are, they're priceless.
Well, it's the same thing. I can't go to the store and buy a VHS tape. I can't go to your show and buy a little stuffed white tiger anymore. So it's really the same difference. I can?
Absolutely.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes. So let me tell you what I've done is I continue to sell the tigers. I found a company that is absolutely fabulous at making the tigers out of materials that have been used previously. When the tigers are put together and I obtain them, part of the proceeds go to the Endangered Species Fund as well. And it's a big deal. In fact, that's why when we sell the tigers in the show, the proceeds go to the endangered species. I kind of like it turned my heart from it being all about Rick Thomas and, selling tigers as souvenirs to Rick Thomas and here's a conservation effort. And for that reason, you will find the tigers still available as souvenirs of the show. Gives you another reason to come out here and get a new tiger.
Well, I'm expecting my tiger to arrive in the mail any day now.
Is that what you...
Yes, that you've said all of this. You haven't performed with tigers now in how long?
Long time. It's like yesterday for me because they were in my life for 20 years.
Oh.
And that's 20 years, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. 20 years working with the tigers. And I don't say working with them. I say living with the tigers.
Yeah, you did.
I gave them everything I had, my life, my time, my efforts, my life savings, everything I had was given to those animals. And I'm so proud for what I attempted to try to accomplish by taking care of these beautiful animals over 10 years.
But they're never going to be out of your life. Ever. No. I don't know how they could be after experiences like that. You did something that, and obviously we're on the outside looking in. You did it every single day, day in, day out. But you did something that most of us only dream of doing.
And my children didn't think much of it whatsoever. They were born and raised into working with the animals. And again, I say living with them. When I have the tigers in my backyard, it was very common for our family. Somebody else, they can't even imagine.
No kidding. They were right there. They were right there. It was incredible. It was, I was in awe of the whole thing. I just wanted to sit out there all day and look at them because, wow. But yeah, you walk past them every day and go, oh yeah, those are the tigers.
There's the tigers. I had a 2-story home that looked over the top of the habitat, and it was always wonderful to just look out the windows and look down onto the tigers as well. So, walking among, in fact, when I designed the habitat, if you remember being there, in the middle of the habitat, there's a play area, or there was a large play yard where each of the tigers' areas or their den area where they lived could be fed into that center section of the habitat. And we often could go in there and have dinner, lunch, whatever it is. We as a family could go in there in the center of the habitat and be surrounded by these tigers so to speak, still separated, but
Right.
you can see every single one of them and be in the midst of them, right in the middle of the habitat. That was and continues to be something that I have did embrace, and look back on with, I just loved it.
And how many people can say that? Holy cow.
Maybe Siegfried and Roy.
that would be about the only other person or two people I could think of really that could pull that stunt off.
And I've gone to many zoos across the world as well. And I always head straight to the exotic cats.
Oh, yeah.
And I give tremendous kudos out to so many amazing zoos that really put their money where their mouth is. It's so hard. I know that they're in captivity. It's so hard to talk to people about these animals, but realizing that they're an endangered species, but the name endangered should tell you a lot about it, meaning that they're in the wild, they're not going to be there that much longer. And the only way that we're saving these animals right now, we're trying to save them in the wild, but there are poachers out there killing them faster than we can save them.
Oh, God,
and also,
incredible.
People haven't thought about this. Tigers have gotten down to a point where they start to now inbreed.
Right.
Because there's so few of them. Now, in that process, they cause themselves to go extinct.
We have that problem in Southern California with the mountain lions because they're separated by the freeways. We've been talking about that a lot here in SoCal because they're inbreeding. I actually was talking to one of the federal biologists about this a couple of weeks ago, and she said, yeah, we're starting to see crooked tails. Yeah. And that's one of the first, she said, that's one of the first signs with the mountain lions that something's up.
Something's going down. Yeah. So when you have the in captivity process, we can control how those animals are bred. And we do make sure, in fact, the U.S. government, I think they do a pretty good job at making sure that these animals are not being inbred. We're required by law to let the government know the generation, their generation before them, and the generation before them as to who their parents were and who the grandparents were, and know the lineage. So part of that program, or part of the program, is to make sure specifically that we are breeding the animals correctly, that they are staying strong. And even though it's in captivity, we're doing the best we can in that particular scenario to try and save these animals.
You know, it's sad that that's the only way they're going to survive is in zoos, because I think we'd all love to see them, running free and, being tigers. But if the reality
as long as
is
you're not out there with them.
Well, no, no, I respect them.
Well, because we were teasing before, right? They said, "What do the tigers eat?" And I say, "The slowest person." And I then said, if you're the slowest person, just make sure you trip the person next to you. Ouch! Fine. Ouch! I know, it's bad.
No, it's a great joke. It is.
They are trained. They are never tamed. And even when I worked with the tigers, they are extremely dangerous. And you're always having to watch out and keep your eye on these magnificent creatures. They're pretty scary.
But if the only way we're going to keep them alive and be able to see living tigers, not virtual tigers, not pictures of tigers, but a living, breathing tiger is in zoos, well then, if that's the way the world has turned, then so be it. I'd much rather have that be the case. Now,
so here we are. We chat about tigers on the front side of this, and what do we know? Next 2 hours later, we're still talking tigers.
Well, see, that could happen, but you're going to be talking about tigers this weekend on the radio show. So you're going to be revealing a lot more cool facts about tigers that none of us have ever thought of. That's coming up on Saturday.
I shall do my best.
Okay. That's going to be this Saturday on my 100.1 KOMC FM. That is in Branson, Missouri. But if you're not in Branson, you can still hear the show, right?
That's right. KOMC.com/player. To me, that's the greatest part about being on the air. It's great in Branson. I love being out there. It gives me a chance to be on the air and make mistakes before I go national. My plans are to go national. So, but I get to practice. But you can go online, and no matter where you are worldwide, not just U.S., doesn't matter. Just go online on the internet, KOMC.com/player, and you can actually listen to everything that we do right there on the air, and it's played in its entirety, and you can listen to it at that very moment. And right now it's Central Standard Time, 10 a.m. till 1 p.m. on Saturdays. Be there.
Tigers coming up.
Yeah, tigers.
I know. I can't wait. Well, we are working on chapter 49, my gosh, of the Tiger Whisker, your book. And if you haven't bought the book, we have the link in the show notes. Easy to get it. This chapter intrigued me because I'd never heard of this concept. The title of the chapter is "Don't Forget to Pass the Spoon." I thought, what?
Yeah.
What?
I don't know where it came from, but it's what our family did. And you know, when you're raised, do you think that the way you're raised and the things you learn, everybody, the world is like how you were raised? I don't know exactly how to say it, but your world is a small little bubble. And then you get in the real world and realize that no two people think the same. No two people have had the same experiences. But you don't know that as a child. You don't know that as a family. You don't know that when everything is bottled up. So the best thing to do is get out there in the world and enjoy the world. But that's actually what this chapter is about, is no two people thinking alike means it's very difficult to communicate.
Very. Yes,
because
true.
Communication, even though, oh, yes, we need to communicate. Yes, you do. You need to talk to other people because you need to figure out what the other person sees and how they see it. We're not even there yet in this podcast. We're going to get there. One of the biggest problems in relationships is people talking over others, not listening to the other individual and trying to understand what that person has to say. So we would have a spoon. We literally get a spoon from the kitchen, and whoever held onto the spoon could say their piece. They could say their feelings. They could talk about their problems. They could talk about whatever it may be. It is their platform. It is their opportunity. And until they pass the spoon over to you, you cannot say a word.
Oh, that would have been hard.
It's difficult, but it's just, and it was just fun for the family. It was just a way for us to say, I have the spoon, I'm speaking. So mom would hand us a spoon, and we'd have our discussion. We'd say what we needed to say. We could then turn around and pass the spoon to somebody else. And it was their turn to then, go ballistic on the family. Whatever it is, it was a way of communicating without being rude to another individual by cutting them off.
I love that idea. And I want to point out that there are 6 kids in the family.
Yes.
Most families don't have that many people at the table, but you potentially had 8 people involved in a conversation. So this makes perfect sense, because that would have been a melee otherwise.
It just is a very basic, fun way to properly communicate. And you may think it's kind of childish, but it's not. Even as a couple, it doesn't have to be a spoon. It could be even a fork.
Okay.
Don't make it a knife.
Good point. That could lead to something totally different.
Yeah, the knife's not good. It's just, try it. Try something in some way or form. To when you're speaking, the other person cannot speak whatsoever. And you can say, I've got the spoon, it's my turn. It may be jovial, it may be something that's entertaining, but it works because you have it in your hands. The other person knows at that moment they better keep their mouth shut. They're going to have their moment to talk. They're going to have their moment to share their thoughts. So wait. And it really trained us well in at least trying to listen to each other better and learn from somebody else's point of view. I've always found it fascinating when there's people give the example of a car wreck or something on the street, and you talk to 10 people who watched it, right? You're going to get 10 different views.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Based on where they're coming from, their own experiences. I mean, a million different things figure in.
And reason why is everybody has a different perspective on life. We were raised differently. We ate different things as we grew up. We were taught in different ways to see the world our way. So when you try to communicate with somebody, because we are all raised differently, because we've all had our own personal, private experiences that make us who we are and make us an individual, which is unique in its own respect, it also makes it difficult for us to communicate because we're not coming from the same direction.
In the chapter, you bring up a story from a previous chapter. And I want you to tell that story again, if you would, about your son and the
misunderstanding.
Yes, the cafe sign.
I would guess it's the perfect example, and it's how people perceive their world around them. My young son, Brandon, was in the truck with us. We were talking about tigers earlier. I was with my cast and crew. We had 5 fine gentlemen in the truck, and we pulled 6 tigers in my trailer to the show every evening. And my son, Brandon, was in the center seat in the front with me. So it's he in the center, I with another gentleman on my right, and 3 guys in the back.
Okay.
And we're driving in the truck, and as we drive up to, this was the Sahara in Las Vegas. As we drove up to the Sahara Casino, Brandon says, "Where's the effing cafe?"
Oh.
I said, what? Now remember, we have 5 guys who have colorful conversation anyway, but not in front of Brandon, right? He's a young little kid.
How old is
and
he?
He was at that point like 8 years old.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
7 or 8 years old. And so everybody was at their best behavior. And he, in the middle of a conversation, said, "Where's the effing cafe?" Now, the guys literally said, "What? What?" They're thinking, you're young, you're a young son. Why should he have that kind of language? And I said, "Brandon, what are you talking about? What are you doing?" And he said he pointed to the casino, and there was a huge sign in the front of the casino that said cafe. And it was CAFE in all bright letters because it's Las Vegas, right? And everything's shiny and glittery. And it's this massive, massive word, and the F is burned out. The F is burned out. And so he says, "Where's the F in cafe?"
F in cafe.
And we lost it. We were like, oh my goodness. And again, it's perspective.
Totally.
He was innocent.
Oh, yeah.
He was just pointing out what he saw in front of him, and he couldn't understand where the F went in the word. And he decided to ask all of us, "Excuse me, why is this burned out?" Why? He didn't understand why there was no F in cafe.
He didn't understand why you were all cracking up either.
That's right. And my guys, and so a good point is we all see things from a different perspective. And until you know the whole story, it can be quite overwhelming or quite shocking. And at first, it was like you want to clean your kid's mouth out with soap, right?
Yeah.
But we found out that at that point, it was probably one of the most charming, wonderful moments of my life. It was so wonderful. It was such a funny thing. And to this day, even though he didn't know what he was saying, he didn't know he was saying anything wrong. He thinks it's pretty cool now. My son Brandon is now 26 years old, and time moves on, but the story is priceless.
Oh yeah, it's a timeless story, and he really remembers it.
He does.
Oh my
He
goodness.
remembers it, and he actually takes great pride in sharing it with everyone.
It's perfect. But how many times have we gone off on somebody thinking we understand what they're saying or what they're talking about or what they meant, and then you find out that it's quite the opposite?
The worst way to communicate currently, I think, is texting.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
In fact, this was on my radio show the other day about texting and this generation embracing emojis.
Yes, indeed.
And I didn't understand why they used emojis as much as they do. 90% of the Gen Zers use emojis in every text.
Oh, they do.
And I don't. I don't.
No.
I never understood it. Zane, who runs my board on the station, he's 22 years old. He says it helps us communicate our true meaning of the text. And he said, so when you text someone and you put an emoji up with the text, it literally guides the person in the right direction to understand your attitude, your thought process, or what you're trying to say within the text.
The tone.
And I thought, I never thought of it that way. And for that reason, they've embraced it because texting is such a dangerous way to communicate.
Well, yeah, because you don't know. You can't hear the inflection. You can't hear the voice quality. You can't see the expression. All you've got are the words. And, if you're in a bad mood, you're probably going to think that text is bad, nasty, mean. Because again, you're coming from your point of reference. I've wondered that too, because my students do a lot of that with me. And up until that show that you recently did, talking with Zane and all about this, I thought, okay, more cute little cartoon characters. Okay, fine. Thank you. That's really what I thought about him. I thought, isn't that cute? I didn't really get it either, but it does make sense.
That's a communication skill that, let me put it this way, that you lacked.
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
Sorely.
We both had a deficiency in understanding the emoji. We thought it was childish behavior. I did. I thought, this is ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
Every time someone sends me an emoji that's like this little cake or someone blowing a little streamer somewhere, all these different emojis. So, but now, just all it needed was that little bit of communication. All Zane had to say was, Rick, it helps us understand the true meaning of what the text is. It helps them not take it in the wrong way. I go, oh my goodness. So now I'm not the person to embrace them, but I will more often than not now throw an emoji into it if there is in that conversation a question mark.
I think my students this upcoming fall semester are going to see more emojis from me in emails and texts, because now I get it. It does make perfect sense. Because sometimes I'll get a text or an email. I'm like, whoa, are they that mad at me? Yikes, help. And if you respond that way, mad, it's like now we have a giant miscommunication going on here. So, yeah, I can understand it. It's funny that a generation would have adopted that, and they didn't let us in on it until now.
Well, it would be interesting to see. I mean, that probably is the reason why that they were created. I don't think it was, I really don't, now that you think about it, I don't think it was just something where it was a toy. Maybe at first because they have the smiley face, this or that, but I think it really has turned into a tool that has become something of worth. In my opinion, still, there's way too many emojis out there.
Oh my gosh. Are you kidding?
Some of them I don't know. Oh my goodness.
There's some that I have learned the meaning of, and I never would have thought that was the meaning of that. But, but yeah, every time you look at the screen, I actually got onto that screen the other day when I was doing a text. I'm like trying to get off it, and there's just more and more and more. And I'm like, help me. How do you know what they all mean? My gosh.
Well, now we know. Now we know how two people communicate, and they try and understand where they're coming from.
I think we need an emoji dictionary.
Every time that they have a new upgrade to the software, they're always saying, hey, we've added new emojis.
Oh my gosh.
So I have taken the time last week or so here to just kind of shuttle through them and entertain myself and go, wow, there's some great, I don't know how someone would take this one or that one or whatever it may be. I think it is quite entertaining, and it allows people to communicate better. So either way, at least they figured out within the world of text. But if you're not texting and you're actually communicating with somebody verbally, you better be holding the spoon and passing the spoon to somebody else so that the two of you can communicate properly and listen to the other individual. So often the biggest problem with communication is that as someone is speaking to us, we more often than not are thinking about what we're going to say back at them.
Oh, indeed.
Not to them, but at them. And we aren't really listening. I take blame as well. It's so difficult to literally just chill out, let somebody speak, take it all in, think about what they said, and then turn around and say something in reverse. Because we're so into trying to rebuke what they may be saying or step on their words or not let them finish what their thoughts are or their mind is. And in so doing, you aren't really listening whatsoever.
Boy, is that true. Yeah. You can almost sometimes with certain people see them formulating the answer or the response while you're talking. It's like, wait, you just got to say, wait, stop, look at me and stop thinking. Just listen.
I have found a real simple respect for people who, now whether this is something that they've just learned or they actually truly are listening. It is something that is positive in a conversation, and that is silence. So when someone is talking to you and you are listening to them and you're trying to formulate what you're going to say in return, once they've finished, give it a pause. Give it a second. Don't answer back for just a moment. And then say, so let me understand what you're saying, and repeat what was said, and then answer. But give it that beat. Give it that moment. And yes, there is a technique to communication. Communication is learned.
Oh, totally.
It really is. Okay.
Yes.
So you need to pause. You need to have thought about what they said. Maybe repeat it, because you need to make sure that they know that you know what they heard, and then respond. But just that moment where you give a little bit of silence, to me, is massive respect to the other person. And it tells them, without saying a single word, that you're thinking about what they just said. That's so key. And just showing respect for the other individual.
I used to actually teach a class on negotiating for contracts. And people are terrified of silence in negotiations. If the conversation stops and like the ball's in your court and you don't say anything for a couple of minutes, the other side is thinking, oh no, they hate what I just said. They hate that offer. They're going to come back with something worse. They're going to, oh my gosh, I better come up with a better response right now. And sometimes in negotiations, this is a great trick. They'll up their offer without you even doing anything, because they're so sure you were going to hit them harder because you were silent. People are scared of silence.
Let them put themselves in the corner. And you can do it in negotiation. If that's what you're doing with a contract, yes, you can put somebody in a very challenging situation.
Oh, yeah.
But more so, I find that you want to show a bit of respect as well, that you are thinking about what they're saying and you aren't just rattling something off as though they're saying, he wasn't listening to me.
But I do love the idea of restating what they said, because yes, it proves you were listening, but it also gives you the chance to make sure you've got it right.
Yes.
That you actually heard what they're saying. Because sometimes, especially if somebody's kind of crazy or frantic, they can be rather convoluted. They may not have stated it fine in a way that you can grasp it. And then they can come back and say, no, that's not what I meant. And you're getting clearer communication by making sure that you both understand each other. No, that's really smart.
Good luck with that. But you got to do it. You got to do it. I tell people often that I have this podcast and I wrote these chapters more so for me than for you. So I'm reprimanding myself constantly regarding these challenges and issues that we all face in our lives. I have a wife who tells me I don't listen. So
well, okay, I'm going to get myself in a whole bunch of trouble here, but the ladies will agree with me that guys are more challenged in listening.
Oh, it's simply because, how do we say it without getting in trouble?
Oh, we're already in trouble, so it's okay.
Women love to share stories.
Oh, yeah.
They love the story. They love the depth. Men are very quick to make decisions. Men are quick to listen to something and kind of sometimes want to let you know they just don't have time to listen to the entire story. When I'm at the show, the one room that I try and stay away from is Tara and all the other lovely dancers in their dressing room, simply because the conversations, for me, they're mind-boggling. You sit there and listen to, and it's, you know what it is? It's just the way women love to talk to each other. And they tell each other stories. If you walk in on us guys, the room's silent. No one's talking to anybody. The guys are just chilling. They're doing their thing, They found their space, and all they want is peace and quiet. And it's just the way that we are.
Yeah.
It's just entertaining. So as a man, the one thing a woman wants them to hear is the entire story.
Yes.
So what do you need to do? You need to go to the kitchen. You need to open up the drawer and you need to pull out a spoon and you need to hand that spoon to the individual and grin and bear it and enjoy the ride and listen to the entire story until they hand the spoon to you.
I've got to ask, because people are going to ask me, do you do this at home now?
I will today. I will today. I will finish the podcast and I will go to my wife and I'll say, here, Tara, here's a spoon. Tell me what's going on. What can we do to make our day better or so be it. But it is something that I, in my head, have always realized it causes us, it forces us to listen. Mm-hmm. And if it needs to be a spoon, then so be it. And once again, I remind you, stay away from the knives.
I think it's absolutely brilliant, really. Well, something else that is absolutely brilliant, and this, again, is so important to talk about, is planning future. We all have to think about that, and sometimes we don't want to. I'm one of the worst people for planning future. I kind of live on the day. You've got a concept that's pretty smart for planning the future. You are a planner. I know that.
All I have done is listen to other people and then share those thoughts. Honestly, I didn't know much about what I share now until I was performing at my show, and two fine gentlemen walked up to me and said, loved your show, loved your story. We appreciate how you tell people to follow their dreams. And the next thing they said is, what do you know about gold and silver?
The conversation starter.
The conversation. What do you know about gold and silver? I said, why? I said, well, first of all, I probably should have some. And they said, that is correct. And they said, our families are taken care of. They're well taken care of. We protected our families beyond the dollar that we all embrace today, which is virtually worthless. It's scaring all of us. Our economy is ballistic. And so they just said, all you need to do is diversify. We have learned a way to purchase gold and silver. And being real gold and silver, one thing you want to stay away from is buying gold on paper. That's like buying in the stock market. You can buy gold through the stock market, but it literally just on paper, or it's just in the markets. It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist until you actually take and obtain the gold. And the same with a stock. The stock doesn't exist, so to speak, until you actually remove the stock from the market and you take a profit or a loss from it. Okay. It's out there. It's out there. You own it, but there's nothing that you can do with it until you actually remove that stock from the markets. So it's the same with gold and silver. If you have it on paper or in the markets, it's there virtually, but it's not there until you actually take it from the markets. I'm talking about real gold and real silver. If you don't hold it, you don't own it. And you need to find a way to get a hold of it, whether it be coins or bricks of gold or silver, whatever it may be, real gold and silver, because it's the only commodity that everyone in the entire world embraces. That's every country, every bank. That is the real deal. So it's real money. It's actual real money. And you should diversify and have something of that type. That being the case, I know a little bit about what I'm talking about, and I love my gold and silver.
And you actually do have it, and you can sit there and spin the coins and make them disappear.
Sit on top of it. Sit on top of it and count the coins. Yeah, I know.
Throw it in
There's
the air.
A picture in my back of my head about, just someone sitting there, like all they do is they count their coins of gold that they have. But it's just a way of protecting what you have. It's an insurance policy.
And
That's
it's
what it is.
not that hard to do. Rick will share it with you. It is one of the few secrets in his life that he will actually reveal. Just go to mansionofdreams.net/wealth. Little form you fill out, won't take you any time at all. And Rick will magically call you on the phone and tell you all about it.
Look, my family, I don't know about your family, but families, as time moves on, talk less and less to each other. At least ours. My mother just came to us and said, you children don't talk to each other anymore. The family is so distant from each other. We need to start talking again. And you know what? One thing that is fascinating for me is my whole family, we're talking about gold and silver. At least we're talking about something together.
Better than
bringing
nothing.
the family together.
There you go.
So as far as family goes, reach out to me and I'll make you part of the family.
There you go. And this weekend, it is Tiger Talk. I love that. I cannot wait for this show. Going to talk tigers, going to talk house cats, probably get some dogs in there too. That's coming up this Saturday on your radio show.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a world of animals out there.
Magic of Dreams with Rick Thomas. And if you're in Branson, my 100.1 KOMC FM. And anywhere in the world, you can get it. KOMC.com/player. Mm-hmm. And if you want to stream, you can always go to Facebook, and it's Rick Thomas Magic on Facebook. And you can chat with me streaming. You don't get to hear the music. We don't have the legal rights to do so through Facebook, but you can actually just chat with me and text and say, hey, Rick, I want to talk about something other than what's on the air, or even have a question about what's on the air. And sometimes those questions make it to the air. Either way, you have a way of communicating with me in many ways. And if you're somewhere out there and it's outside of Branson, which I would anticipate a lot of you listening to this podcast, go to KOMC.com/player, mark it, make it a bookmark, and I'll see you this Saturday. Saturday, 10 to 1, that's Central Time. We've got all of that in the show notes for you if you didn't write it down, so don't worry, it's right there.
Thanks for joining us this week on Nothing Happens Until You Dream, starring Rick Thomas and featuring Tammy Trujillo, and is based on Rick Thomas's best-selling book, The Tiger Whisker, available on rickthomas.com. We hope you enjoyed this episode. We'd love for you to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. And check us out on Patreon for exclusive members-only content. Stay up to date with Rick and Tammy at nothinghappensUntilYouDream.com. Remember, you must follow your dreams, not only for yourself, but for the rest of our future. We'll see you on the next episode.